ending. So kick back and listen, it'll make your grin. Every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Yeah, yeah.
The fire at the Pilgrims' very inn, the lanterns burn late, and the stories never sleep. Tonight, we open the worn leather satchel of listeners' letters, curious comments, strange things sighted on the road we walk, on the road less traveled, whether it's thoughtful encouragement, fiery debate, or eerie evidence from the edge of known reality. We'll read what you have sent and share our thoughts in return. So this is your night, listener night. So if you send me crazy stuff, some people don't want it shared. Some, they just send me things that are interesting and whatnot. And tonight will be one of our first nights that we're trying the video attempt again to see how that goes. I want to try to share my screen and some other things with you so that you can see some of the things that people send in that they find on the web. Pilgrims' Great Chronicles, Robert Clark, your host. That's me. And again, it's your night, your voice, your questions, your findings, all part of a great tapestry that we're weaving here. So grab a warm drink, settle into the shadows of the watchtower, and join us as we sift through the dispatches of the faithful, the curious, and the brave. Because here, all of your journeys matter. And we care. So I wanted to go over... had quite a number of emails and comments again. And one that I didn't get a chance to get to last Wednesday, because our last Wednesday show, if you didn't know, got booted by Facebook because I mentioned some unmentionable things, apparently. And so they pulled the episode. And from what I can tell, they might have done some shadow banning of me as a result. I'm not sure. So if that's the case, we can defeat that by you guys just liking the heck out of episodes and giving 5-star reviews, by putting the video in comments, sharing it as much as possible, and together we can defeat those who try to restrict free speech. But it's got to be y'all. It can't be, because YouTube is obviously not pushing it. So, but, they also say, well, no, it's just that your content sucks. Well, I mean, if that were the case, I would think I wouldn't have some videos with 40,000 plus views. So anyway, let's get started with some of your emails, because it was a late night at work and I'm pooped. So, this one really fascinated me. And again, this one was actually supposed to be on last Wednesday night's show, but it got canceled. But I wanted to share this one because I find it fascinating that we have a listener from Croatia. I think it's totally cool. He's not currently living in Croatia, but I'll just read his comment here and you can see what I'm talking about. So he says, listener from Croatia here. I actually found you after I got all engulfed into Little Season. I must have watched hundreds of hours on it. I can't say my scripture knowledge is anywhere near any of yours, and I'm still undecided where we are on the biblical timeline. Mainly because there are a lot of fishy channels that are looking to monetize on the subject as much as they can. Anyway, I love your content and appreciate your insights and replies to the viewers. I would love to see you review one of Jason Jack's videos on biblical timeline and LS. He is one of the people I most respect in that eschatology. I still haven't had a chance to do that. I will probably do that tomorrow while I'm at work. My job, what I do for a living, I'm able to pretty much listen to content and study and do things 8 to 10 hours a day with an earbud in my ear. So I get plenty of opportunity to listen. So I'll see about doing that tomorrow while I'm at work. Also, a little bit more information on him here in his very first message that he sent. Let's see, is that the first one? Oh, yeah, I responded to him, and then he said, "Thank you for your kind words and God bless. I'm actually a Croatian living across the pond in Ireland for the last 10 years. I'm only after finding my faith again, and I'm going through preterism, vids, futurism, and little season ones. Just trying to wrap my mind around everyone's points. I'm falling behind on my Bible reading, but I will get to it. In relation to Jason Jack's channel, he's an author, 1 or 2 books, a plastic surgeon, and such a gentle soul. He has loads of videos on the subject and has done a few debates with Baptist ministers, etc. He has hours and hours of material and research and interpretation on various texts. So it would be cool if you'd pick any and review or even reach out for a conversation. I know you're a fan of JT, and so am I. I've been a member of his channel for a while now, but I respect the likes of Jason Jack much more, as there is no paywall, and his research is actual research. Sorry this went on for so long. God bless again. I don't mind the long comments. I mean, look how long-winded I could get. I mean, these shows are really supposed to be an hour long, and like the Wednesday night shows are really supposed to be just reading the comments, but I get carried away, and so they, a 20, 30-minute show sometimes turns into 50 minutes to an hour because my mouth runs constantly. But I really appreciate the fact, I just think it's really cool that the podcast reaches Ireland, Croatia, Malaysia, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and I want to say there was somebody in Eastern Europe. I can't remember the country, but I can track all these things on my software stuff that I can see behind the scenes, so to speak. So I get a view of where people are listening from, and it fascinates me that to find where people are listening, and why it's not reaching other places. So, but the more we share it, the more people will hear, right? So we all do our little part, and what we think is just a little nothing thing, you never know. Like, you sharing it in one place could cause 10 other people to see it that never would have seen it. So, it's, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. I don't know what I just did with my camera there, but it flashed at me for a second. All right. So, let's move on to the next comment here. Leroy Brown, cool name. So he says, have you done a deep dive into what appears to be secular Christianization through Christian philosophy? I see a movement in secular world where Peterson, Dawkins, Musk, Thiel, Joe Rogan, and others are pushing Christian philosophy, not Christianity, as the way to build a proper society. I also see within Christianity a move towards making this world a better place as the primary goal. Social gospel, prosperity gospel, 7 Mountain Mandate. Yes. I'm very familiar with the 7 Mountain Mandate from having listened to George Hobbes and others on the subject. And yeah, shift to pleasant sermons and acceptance everywhere. And of course, how all other religions already accepted a version of Jesus as an elevated prophet, possibly a worldwide convergence of Christian philosophy to usher in the counterfeit Messiah, false Christ, Antichrist. My thoughts? I did a whole video on this. Maybe not some of the specific things you mentioned, but I did a video called Christ Consciousness, because it kind of covers much of the same territory. And I personally feel like preterism lends itself to that, right? Because with preterism, you have all these events have already happened, right? Everything in Revelation's happened. So, of course, you would want a 7 Mountain Mandate. And what he means by 7 Mountain Mandate is it's the 7 areas of society that they list that they want to conquer for Christianity and things of that nature. And unfortunately, many of these Christians have involved themselves in the political arena in ways that are not good. It is not good. maybe I'll do a show on that and go over it to demonstrate why those kinds of alliances being made with people who, in my opinion, are just pure evil. Most of the governments of the world they're not good at that level. Once you get to that level where you are in control of an entire country, generally speaking, it means you probably made deals with the powers that be to be selected to be placed in that position and have ties, like almost like the mafia, if you want to call it that. And that's why we're going over the whole series that we've begun. That I did before Jeremy Stone's interview this past Monday. We started a series prior to that that's going to go over the movers and shakers that you don't ever hear about. You know, you hear about the Soros, but trust me, if you're hearing about Soros and you see him, I promise you there are far more powerful, far more rich people above him that you're never going to hear about in the mainstream. They put those people out there as shields and fronts and to sway things and whatever as expendables. But the people that are behind those kind of people are the people really moving and shaking things. They're the kind of people that made the decision to influence governments to do things like attack the U.S. liberty so that we could have a nice world war. And if you're not familiar with that, I'm going to probably postpone our next Monday thing because I feel persuaded from having listened to a couple of different Remember the U.S. Liberty, and I just feel convicted in my heart to share their story because so many people haven't heard it yet. And it's an important story. And every time I hear the one guy speaking about it, who was one of the survivors, you know, the mainstream media is never going to fully share their story. If they do, it'll be buried on page 8 million somewhere, or you'll see it at 2 o'clock in the morning or that kind of a thing, right? And then so that they can say, oh, we covered it. You know, we talked about it. Yeah, right. Of course you did. But I want to share that, and then we'll go and start our series back up. But I definitely, for them and what they went through, I want to do an episode that explains what they went through so that you can share it with friends who need to be awakened to the fact that virtually every government on this planet is evil. And I'm not talking about Americans or Israelis or whatever. I'm talking about the people that are really running the country that you never hear about and what they did and what they do. I mean, I've touched on some of it, you know. I think one of my videos I shared about Project Northwood, where they were literally willing to take down Americans in a passenger plane so we could go to war with Cuba and have a legitimate excuse to do so. And of course, many of you are probably familiar with Pearl Harbor and the fact that they knew for ages before the attack that it was coming and allowed it to happen, and then blamed an admiral for it who was a great guy. Anyway, long story short, it was to get involved with World War II. In the Gulf of Tonkin. I mean, there's just lie after lie after lie. I don't know why anybody still trusts anybody in government anymore, other than they have an entire machine behind them to psyop you into trusting them in whatever they want you to trust, whether it's doctors or this medicine or that or that, whatever. I mean, they're very good at it. They've learned from the best, right? So, yeah, I think certain Christian philosophies and thoughts and theologies do lend themselves to ecumenicism and trying to conquer the world in ways that I don't think Christ ever intended for us to do. He wants you to love him with every bit of your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself until he returns. That's the bottom line. Live a quiet life, love him, love your neighbor. How does that look? Well, it looks different for everybody. Although it would still be within the limitations of his word, obviously. But, you know, you're going to have a different situation than I am. You know, maybe in your neighborhood, You see people that are freezing out in the winter, and you have extra coats. Give them your extra coat and expect nothing in return. So now you get to see me clearing my throat on camera as I lose my voice. All right, next comment here. It is not the blood in their veins that they claim the divine right of kings, but by the blood they spill in a sacrifice that gives them that right. That is in response to Arcane to the Committee of 300 video from Celestial Voyages 9340. I don't disagree that happens, but I don't think it's an either or thing. I think it's both, because if you read what they say, they definitely claim their divine right of kings by literal bloodline, like DNA. They trace it back to demigods, or I would refer to them as Nephilim, as brought about by rebellious angels who altered the human genetic ancestry by mating with us and even possibly just experimenting. So, and then we have Noel of Patmos, cool name. Also on the Cain to Committee of 300 video, he says, God led me to this. Very good work, brother. Thanks for the information. Well, thank you for listening. You know, I appreciate everybody who listens and comments, because look, some videos get thousands of views and maybe less than 10% comments on it. So for those who comment, that shows me that you are a person who, whether it's a negative or positive, it doesn't matter to me. You're an initiative taker, and you take the time to make the response, and I appreciate it. So thank you, Noel Patmos. And then Maxival 1240 found this gem of a channel 5 days ago. Magnificent content. Jesus is King of Kings. Yes, he is. And I think that's the first time my content has ever been referred to as magnificent. So thank you for that. And thank you for commenting. I really appreciate it. And for listening. That was on our Trump versus Elon WHO treaty, World War III setup, which is probably our top 3 story of the week. I just briefly go on Fridays at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. I briefly go over the top 3 stories of the week that have occurred and how they're related to the Seed War. Because, you know, yeah, it's a top 3 story of the week, but if it's, you know, I don't watch news for the sake of news. I watch it through a filter of what's going on in the world as it relates to Scripture. And the most important thing to me is, how does that fit into the Seed War? And that, when I say Seed War, I'm just talking about the war between God and the line of the Messiah and those who love him and follow him versus the other side. And when I say seed, I'm not just talking about spiritual seed. I believe they also have their own genetic bloodlines that go right along with all of this. So we have Cartuxo 999. Boy, man, some of these names. Is the New World Order something to distract us to focus on the future instead of looking back? And that's on our Tartaria video. I probably need to do another Tartaria video. At any rate, I just simply said we can do both, and should, and it all culminates in the Novus Ordo Seclorum, right? So definitely not just a distraction. And thank you for listening and replying. I honestly, truly appreciate everyone. That's why I read as many as I can. At some point, it'll probably get out of control, and I'll have to pick and choose. But for now, I'm going to try to read every single one that I can, so long as I have the time and a voice. Francis Hatton. Sometimes things come to you when you aren't looking to trip over them. This is one of those times. And that was on the Cain to Committee of 300. And I'm just assuming that was meant as a compliment. So I told Francis, I love your way with words, and thank you. That made me grin, because it did. I thought it was a pretty great comment. And then Shunya R8J. I would love to know who sings the music. Does Spotify have it? Well, I'm not sure which music you're referencing. If you're talking about the opening of the Pilgrims Gray podcast on Monday nights. That is early on when I was just kind of getting started on the podcast, because before I was using AI voice and just typing up my scripts and so on and so forth, because I didn't have time to record and do all that. I do now. And so early on within my first few episodes, I had a couple, if I remember correct, it was either Wisconsin or Minnesota, somewhere in the Midwest, that emailed me a tune that they thought would be clever for the show because I like Tolkien and because they didn't like some of the harder music that I played. So I thought, okay, well, that's cool. I'd give it a shot. I listened to a couple of different things they sent, and I chose that one, which was called "The Lantern of Gray," and I think they did a great job on it, and I love it. And I put a video to it at the beginning of this particular show, just a little 1-minute thing to do it as a show introduction, and I'm glad you like it. And if you want a copy of it, just email me at pilgrimsgray@gmail.com. Oh my gosh, I don't know why that was so hard to say. All right, so we have one from Jan Skaggs. Okay, if I recall, this person was a fan of JT and Little Season Theory, which I understand. I get why people think this. I personally don't agree with it for good reason. I did a whole video on it, and that's what she's responding to. The video I did called "Did Jesus Already Return?" Debunking the Little Season Doctrine. I've made 2 of these videos so far, but this one was specifically made in response to JT's mixtape, who did a video on what generation was Jesus speaking to. So anyway, she's asking me about something that I mentioned in the video about a mountain. She says, "What mountain is there in Jerusalem that Jesus will be able to stand on, which will split? I know when I listen to JT or many others who believe as JT and who are not preterist, that I understand what they say and it just feels right in my soul." Well, for starters, JT has to technically be, at the very least, a partial preterist. Hate to break it to you, because he believes everything in the Revelation has happened at least up to chapter 19. He's just waiting on chapter 20 to take place. So a preterist believes everything in Revelation has taken place. So listening to you seems scattered, not in order, and it just doesn't feel righteous. I'd say it doesn't resonate with me, but that has been used so much in New Age stuff, which does not apply here. Yeah, I'm definitely not a big New Age fan, but I understand why people are drawn to it. And it's mostly because in this generation, the church has, I'm not saying the church doesn't have anything to offer, but I'm just saying the organized religions of the world that meet in churches every Sunday are dropping the ball. And it's why so many are drawn to the New Age, because we've taken basically the Holy Spirit almost out of everything. Everything has a natural explanation. Excuse me. So she continues. It being a time after the reign of Christ for 1,000 years, or however long one wants to call it, and the melted cities all over our world, the buildings that had to have been built in a time more advanced than we are, even now, and many of those buildings flooded with mud from an obvious flood, and all of the horrific evil that is being carried out on our children while the rest of the world lives as slaves, making money for the people who are working for Lucifer and doing his bidding to try and help him take our Creator's place as God. Sounds like an evil season to me. I agree, but I just don't think that everything described by the Old Testament prophets and the New Testament prophets has happened. It hasn't. The things that you're describing have better explanations than all of that having happened. And I've gone into that in other videos. And it does, the New Testament mentions that reign of 1,000 years twice. And at the end, it says that Satan will have to be loosed after that 1,000 years. So it's definitely a millennium, 1,000 years. But the melted cities could be explained by any number of things. See, if you're paying, and I'm not saying you're not paying attention, but if you look at it throughout both Old and New Testament history, the rebellious angels, 200 of them who initially landed at Mount Hermon and did what they did. I don't have time to go into all the specifics of it, but my main point is they keep trying to have their golden age like they had before the flood over and over and over again. They're being restrained. And every time they come close, they're put down again. Like at Babel, they were doing it again. And I think to a point where they were using the Tower of Babel being built. I don't think it was just a tower, because in Akkadian, that word literally means gate of the gods. I think they were building a way to get back into the heavens in some way to literally go to war with heaven. And I think they've been trying ever since to be able to do that in some sort of way. But they also want the birthright here on this planet. That's one of the reasons one of the reasons they had children with us, is to supplant us with their own. And they're just enough human to do it. See? And so, because of the massive level of genetic tampering, God just reset it with a flood. The second attempt at Babel wasn't as successful. God put a stop to it right away because it was clear humanity was listening to the little g gods again. The second incursion, they were mating with us again, but I personally, it seems as if from the writings of that time that there was a problem, probably because of God's restraint with them having as many children. Like it was much more difficult, or they couldn't live in the new environment as well and survive. Either way, there was, it became more difficult, increasingly difficult. And of course, then when you have the wars of Joshua and Caleb and David, exterminating most of them in the Canaan area, God also put an end to the reign of the Amalekites, and some of the Canaanites. Remember, he was only waiting for their sin to reach a certain level, and then boom, gone. And I think a lot of those, sorry, I think a lot of them, like the descendants of the Phoenicians, probably left that region because it was too dangerous and went off to places like South America to restart, and that's why you find many of these structures there after the flood. And of course, the lands were very unsettled after a global flood, and you probably had all manner of shifting, water coming back up for a while, the mud flood you're referencing. And it's because those same beings and their offspring were all over the globe anyway and then spread out again. Because remember, the events of the Tower of Babel happened centuries, a few hundred years after, or at least a couple hundred years after the Ark had already rested in the mountains of Ararat. So there's plenty of time for populations to grow, things to get out of control, and so on. All right. So, you asked about the mountain too. Oh boy. Some reason my mind is failing me. I could just read my response but you've probably already read it. But anyway, it's the Mount of Olives. And when he comes back and his foot lands on it, it splits in half and creates a valley. And you can read that. Gosh, I can't remember. I think it's in Zechariah. I should have prepared that a little better. Anyway, I wrote a comment. Zechariah 14:4, which says, Jesus' feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, and it will split at his return, making a way of escape. You know, as far as I know, the Mount of Olives is still together, and the region that we're talking about has been the region of Israel throughout all of history. And so, and the throne of David is in that region, so I would just say the entire counsel of Scripture needs to be taken into account, not just weird things that we're finding that have better explanations. There are better explanations than Satan's little season, because every living thing in the sea did not die, right? We haven't seen people living upwards of 1,000 years, which everybody in the millennial kingdom should have been doing. We've also never seen a 1,000-year period that had as its primary characteristic peace, like a very big time of peace. Has never happened since 87. And I realize that the millennial kingdom isn't 100%, but that should be its primary characteristic, and we've never had that. In fact, thanks to things like Islam, I mean, we've had, pretty much violence and bloodshed ever since that. So, and that was around 600 AD, right? 632, the start of all that. So somewhere in there, you got to squeeze 1,000 years. I just don't see how you do it. And not just that, but I don't see how you explain massive destruction to the planet. At best, we could say the Earth definitely shows signs of a catastrophic flood, for sure, but not the kind of incineration, islands and mountains being moved out of their place, and the Mount of Olives splitting in half. So, just saying, maybe don't always trust how something makes you feel. Go, in fact, don't believe what I'm saying. Go and read for yourself. Go look up every verse on it. Look all of it up. The entire counsel, not just stuff that agrees with you. Read it all. I mean, all of it. And I think you'll find that you just can't squeeze the little season in there. And also look at history, at least what you can believe of it, I suppose. Because I know they do try to mess with our historical, what they're telling us about human history we know is BS. I mean, you can just look at the structures that were built, and it's clear that they weren't just stupid hunter-gatherers just out of the Neanderthal phase. There's no way. Absolutely no way that could be correct. So Anthony Curley, 8891. I'm going to start with his, let's see. He's made several comments. Agreed, but again, no solution. Even the Illuminati, along with Masons, the bloodlines have been corrupted. Go along to get along. Magically influence, which make the pretenders very dangerous. In essence, those that have the original DNA have been deceived. What you say is quite right, but it has been corrupted and is fundamentally flawed and run by sociopaths. Sure, and I've commented on that underneath if anybody wants to read it. And then he says, which begs the question, who are the greater fools? Many of those that believe they are among the chosen are, in fact, the greater fools. We, on the other hand, can plead ignorance. These pretenders cannot. And then he also says, and that's why Nazism has found its way into American politics. That has been recently exposed. And also, high-speed subliminal conditioning for humans. Very sophisticated police military pushed frequency fluctuations, embedded messaging. It's called training police for months away from society. That edge of peripheral hearing, that nice outside smell from that little puffer on the wall. These people are not what they once were. If you are not aware of it, you will be subject to it. Not 100% sure about all that. I did make my comments to what he was saying. But Anthony, honestly, I appreciate you listening to the video and commenting on it. And it's clear you're obviously keeping up with what's going on. And I would just ask that you share the information out there and share good information, and let people know. Wake them up as best you can, however God leads you to do that. And then Ratel, hello 5871. Hope I got that right. Thank you for this video. I found your channel through Jeremy Stone's recommendation. Looking forward to listening to your videos. The Lord bless you and your family. The Lord bless you right back. I appreciate that. And I had a lot of fun interviewing Jeremy. Jeremy, I think he's a great guy. And I appreciate you listening to the Trump versus Elon video, our top 3 Friday night. All right, Vernto WS6937. I don't know. Dr. John Coleman, the Committee of 300, also Tavistock. Eustace Mullins, The World Order. Also Eustace Mullins, The Curse of Canaan, The Bloodline. I'm guessing Eustace Mullins is an author. I know Dr. John Coleman is, and I think I offered his book in my description. So if anybody wants a copy of that book to learn more about the Committee of 300, please purchase the book through my link, and I get a commission. It doesn't change the price of the book, but it helps support our channel and our outreach, because I use all that money to push the show if I can in some way, shape, or form, or to make it better, right? And then he continues, about as interconnected as the Rothschilds. I understand Weishaupt's Illuminati was inspired by the protocols of the learned elders of Zion withdraw of consent. That's quite accurate. We plan to get into all of this. I've only had the one show, and there's going to be 6 more that'll go into more detail. So please stay tuned and continue to share your insights. And I really do appreciate you listening and hanging in there. Just because I do a video doesn't mean I know everything. And when you comment, I learn other things that I might need to look up or I forgot. So really appreciate the info there. All right. This is on Jeremy Stone's interview recently. Bernie McIntyre, who I think I recently befriended on Facebook. Excellent show, guys. I've had this a few times. I can't imagine dealing with that for a long period of time. It's a bad feeling before it happens. It happened much later for me. I was 27 my first time. Well, I really hate that it happens to anybody. I've never experienced it. Just the typical fear when I was a kid, like I said in the interview. And then he continues, I was the only person in my family to have them. The first follower of Christ, the family scapegoat, middle child of 3. Same here. I was a middle child of 3. I have a younger and older brother. And I really hate that that happened to you. And I just pray that you will continue on with Christ. And of course, know, as you likely already do, that He is your salvation from all of that. And then we have Rurital Halu again. Thank you for your kind words. Blessings. Well, same right back to you. I appreciate your kind words and blessings right back to you. All right. Rebecca Spalding. All right. A regular, and I appreciate you commenting. She says, thank you, Justin, for sharing. Robert, love, love, love the ending song. Yeah. It's okay. So the couple that I talk about that sent me the original, the one that I'm using at the beginning, they also do the one at the end. I just didn't know which one to use, but I thought, you know what? Because this one's cool too, I'm just going to use it as an end of the show one. So I'm glad that you liked it. I'll just start leaving it in there for Monday nights. Cool. I love it. That's really great. Oh, whoops. I mean, Jeremy. Yes. Yes. We were reading what you meant, not what you actually wrote. If that helps, Rebecca. Thank you for writing again and encouraging. All right. Liz Johnstone, 1987. This was so good and really enjoyed listening. Well, thank you for tuning in, Liz. I appreciate you listening and taking the time to write. Of course, it's I really appreciate it. And I hope you found value in the interview and shared it with others who might be struggling with this. Because not only do they have the help of Jeremy's interview, but I make sure whenever I think about it, I don't always do it because sometimes I get busy and I forget. But in all of my Monday videos, I will try to tag related subject material that I trust from authors that I trust. So if you want to study the material more, you can get that book, and it also helps to support us. So it's a win-win. You get a great book to study. I get a very small commission for you purchasing the book. Does that make sense? So, and I'm not all about money. I could put up a paywall to get, so that or offer something to where you're not having to listen into the ads that they put in there. I don't put in all the ads, by the way. Somehow either YouTube does or whatever. I don't even know how to get rid of some of the ads that are put in here at times. I do upload through Spreaker that also automatically puts ads in, but I try on some of them to just leave it as is and not add extra ads so that you're not inundated with, every 2 minutes an ad is popping up, which is annoying. So, but if I get enough requests from people that say, hey, I'd be willing to pay $3 a month or something, or however people charge, so that I don't ever have to listen to another ad, then I would look into it. But right now, I don't have that going on. So I instead offer a win-win situation. You can order one of the books from the subject material, and you get a great book that you should probably read anyway, and I get a commission from it. So, Delusional 1946. Harry 1 Abe did not send... Wait a minute. I think this is mistyped, and I don't know how to decipher it. Something did not need to be taught war. I will just figure it out. It is obvious it has no benefits for humanity, a total waste of Earth's resources. I would agree with that if I 100% knew exactly what you were referencing, and I don't. So, but I do know that it was from the Kane to the Committee of 300 video. But I agree, war is a complete waste of Earth's resources. But they want our population limited, so they'll continue to have it, and it's useful to them that run the world because it keeps you in fear and keeps you restless and keeps you in a state of anxiousness and keeps them very rich. So they love war. All right, user GC2IUBL1. I don't even know why I'm reading that. So, because I'm pretty sure the person who made this comment is a bot, and it's on the Kane to Committee of 300, and it's meant to bait me into an argument, and I know what I would say, but it would probably be more not for the person who made the comment, but for others reading it. So this person says God must not be as powerful as portrayed in holy books and stories. Ooh. Or maybe he is, and he's so powerful that he's capable of making a world of free choices that also involve the choice to not love him and go your own way and be evil, and yet still manages in a world like that he set into motion to still bring about his will in the end. And the things that seem bad to you and like he's not in control, just remember like the story of Joseph. Everybody else may have meant it for evil and chose their will to do evil, but God still turned it out for the good of Joseph and the whole known world at the time, who didn't starve to death as a result of Joseph and his wisdom. And God always does that, like Romans 8:28 says, right? All things turn out for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose, right? But if you're not, then of course you're going to see it the way you commented. So, but the good news is, God doesn't force you to go to heaven. He doesn't force you to be a part of his will. He lets you go your own way if you want to. He's not going to force you. I mean, yes, the end result is you won't be in his presence because you don't want to be. So that automatically means you'll be separated from him forever, and that won't be pleasant because he is a good God and being separated from a good and holy God means you're going to be surrounded by people who are horrible. So good luck with that. I pray that you change your mind. Okay, so thank you for a great episode and a beautiful testimony for Jeremiah. Yes, thank you, Sabrina B7276. I really appreciate you listening and commenting, and I'm sure Jeremy does also. And then we have what or who then is Bashan? Oh, and this is somebody commenting on a very old video I made when I was interested in the some of the creatures of the Seed War, like the bulls of Bashan. So I made a short video, maybe 20, 30 minutes long. Anyway, to answer your question, Dave, D6422, and I will also comment when I get time on your comment. But the bulls of Bashan are the fallen Nephilim spirits who were gloating over Jesus while he was dying on the cross. It's in a psalm, the bulls of Bashan encompass me. And the region of Bashan is right there over by Mount Hermon, where the first 200 came down. It's also where Jesus walked several miles out of his way to make several points, one which he did not need to do. So there was a reason he was in this region and said what he said, where he said it to Peter, and about building the church on this rock, And it was, basically a challenge to these fallen little g gods that want to rule this world. And God has pretty much allowed them to do it because we've given them permission to, from Babylon, right? Not Babylon, but from Babel to currently today. That's why we have the Divine Council, right? We were split up under 70 large principalities and other gods that we worshipped, and different cultures called them different names: Zeus, Baal, Thor. I mean, you name it. We've been under them ever since. And the Lord picked one guy to be a nation unto himself, while everybody else followed after the little g gods. And that was Abram. And that doesn't mean that particular race of people from Abram, the Israelites, the Jews, are automatically saved just because of that. It just means that they were chosen as a holy nation set apart for God. If they sin, they still need a Savior too. It's just he picked a group of people as a peculiar people to teach them his ways, and for them to follow him, which they sometimes did a great job doing that, and sometimes failed absolutely miserably, just like we all do, right? So, Andrew Anderson, it is about the spiritual that spills into the physical, which is about race and bloodline, and you will never truly understand it without knowing first who Yahweh's people are. I'll give you a hint. On the surface, they're hated because of the color of their skin. They went into slavery and captivity, and they fit the curses of Leviticus 26, Deuteronomy 28, and of the prophets. I really don't like getting into the color of skin because we're all made in God's image, and every race has been subject to slavery. Every skin color has been subject to slavery. Every skin color has been subject. It's a human thing. If you want to go into further detail of what you're describing, I'll be happy to discuss it with you. I will give a written reply sometime this week and go over it further, but I think skin color is completely irrelevant to any of this. We're all made in God's image. Every one of us. We're all human beings. Okay, so with that is a wrap-up on the comments. I wanted to share with you, in addition to all that stuff, some of the videos that I thought would be a cool thing to share, because I could relate to two of them. I can't remember. I hope this goes well, because I haven't had a chance to test this yet. So this will be a big test, and if it fails, I apologize in advance. But at least you heard the rest of the show that I intended to get out. before I possibly flop on my face with this. I'm still learning some of this stuff, and hopefully it'll go well. So let's do the first screen share here. Well, let's see. They don't put them in order, so that truly sucks. Maybe this one here. Here we go. Is that the one? Maybe not. Sorry, folks. Bear with me here. It's this one here. Yeah, okay. So this is one of the ones I could relate to. Here you go. This is. I just thought it was funny because this is literally what I do whenever I'm watching a show. I can't. My wife and I can't just watch a show. This is what we do. We watch a show or a movie, focusing on the symbolism and subliminal messaging instead of the main plot. Yeah. So there you have it. Anyway, hopefully that went okay and didn't completely screw up. And let's do this next one here. Is it this one? Yeah. Okay. So, well, for those of you who are just listening, I guess it's not fair to you because you can't see these. I'll do a better job of describing what's going on here. So, in this one, we have a couple sitting on the couch. The woman's crying. She has a tissue in her hand, right? And the guy is just sitting there watching the same thing, only he's got this stone-faced expression on his face like, are you kidding me? And so the caption says, POV, people are getting emotional over the latest news cycle, but you know it's a psyop, so you don't even react. Yeah. So anyway, again, that would definitely not be my wife crying. It just wouldn't. She would never. She'd be just like me, just looking at it and rolling her eyes at the stupidity of it all. Okay, so this one I want to share because this is what I mean when I say psyop. And this is a bit of evidence. There's plenty of people out here who do this, and some people do a great job, others don't. And so what it is there's this woman here who starts off by saying, you know, basically that something isn't going on, and then the psyop of all the different newscasters up there who start saying and using the exact same word, saying the exact same phrase the same way, because they're told to. They're just talking heads with enough hairspray on their hair to deflect bullets and shell fragments, right? They are simply carrying out their duty that they're told to do. Are they in on it? No. They're just told what to do on their job. It's the people way above them that here's what we want all your newscasters to say. The people way up at the tippy top who decide what the narrative is going to be, and then they give it to all the newscasters to go out there and say the exact same thing in the exact same way, the exact same script, and just very slight variations. You know, remember during the elections, the word gravitas? Nobody ever used that word before. And then suddenly every news person talking about politics began using the word gravitas. It's the same thing. So I will play this out for you, and here we go.
Guys, I'm getting really sick and tired of telling you over and over again, they are not in lockstep. You're actually just be
Crackdown
really
on illegal immigration.
Today's dramatic escalation in the Trump administration's conflict with judges.
The Trump administration signaling a major escalation in its deportation efforts.
Today, an escalation in the Trump administration's battle with the judiciary.
Tensions between local and federal authorities over President Trump's immigration crackdown escalated today.
We begin this hour with a major escalation of the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration.
We begin with what appears to be a major escalation in the Trump administration's deportation efforts, and what is a major escalation in the battle here in D.C. over immigration and deportation.
This feels like an insane and reckless escalation from the Trump administration arresting a judge. I will tell you, you are not alone.
Is a dramatic escalation.
More aggressive moves, more escalation.
Trump's escalation of his migrant purge.
This kind of escalatory action.
This is a dramatic escalation.
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 We've seen an escalation.
well, that escalated quickly.
Cute.
Guys,
So yeah, there you go. Escalatory. That was my favorite. Escalatory. That's what the heck and Bob, right? I mean, my goodness. All right. I think I got one more, and this one's a bit long, but I want you, if you'll please bear with me and just hear this last one out, because it's good. It's Candace Owens, and I think you're going to find it interesting. It's about 6 minutes, so hopefully you can hang in there and listen to it. And in fact, we should hang in and listen to things like this, right? We need to have longer attention spans and just listen sometimes, don't we? But I know from my statistics that the average listener, now it's been increasing more and more, but the average person, I think, hangs into a video for maybe 2 minutes, I've increased that to about 12 to 17, but that's because many of you are out there listening to the full content. And for every one of you that does that, I really appreciate it. So without further ado, here is Candace Owen and listening to this craziness. It's, wait, did I lose it? Please tell me I didn't lose it. I didn't. Here it is. All right, Candace, tell us what you think.
Let me tell you, if you are not a conspiracy theorist by now, it's because you are not intelligent.
Work it, make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger.
It is a stable of so-called conspiracy theories that the highest levels of politics and finance, there is a shadowy cabal of pedophiles who use their power to hide the crimes they commit against children.
Because pedophiles are the easiest people to blackmail.
It's a whole different country from what we thought it was.
It's all fake.
You need to unlearn everything you have learned about JFK's assassination. You need to unlearn everything that you have learned about MLK's assassination. You need to unlearn everything that you were taught about 9/11, everything that you think you know about the Vietnam War, World War II. The truth is that the government is evil, and that the government is worse than evil. I want to be clear. The government is satanic. These Satanists conspired to remove God out of your life. You believe you're an atheist. There's no such thing as an atheist.
You just are not aware of what it is that you are worshiping.
Some people don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with the reality of how evil our institutions are. But guess what? The time for fear is over. You have to face this reality because it's the only way that we're going to be able to move forward. You have to confront evil.
There is a whole world that we can't see that acts on people, the supernatural world that's acting on us all the time for good and bad. Every society has thought this before ours. In fact, every society in all recorded history has thought that until, I'll be specific, August 1945, when we dropped the atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And all of a sudden, the West is just officially secular. We're God. There is no God but us. And that's the world that we have grown up in. But that's an anomaly. Like, no one else has ever thought that. There's never been a society that thought that. Every other society has assumed, and they've had all kinds of different explanations, and the details differ, but the core idea does not differ, never has differed from caves until now, that we're being acted on by spiritual forces at all times.
That is a reality. The people who understood this all the way leading up to World War II, since the dawn of humanity, they understood this. They knew God was real and the devil was real. And then something happened after World War II. I'll tell you what happened. Psychological tactics happened. Well, don't be a conspiracy theorist, guys. No, actually, be a conspiracy theorist, because the conspiracy theorists are telling you the truth. What they are trying to tell you is that common sense is a conspiracy now. Things are growing more sinister because they're losing control. More people are starting to wake up. More people are starting to realize that all the things that they believed to be conspiracy theories in the past are in fact true. We are fighting real evil in this country. We're fighting real evil all over the world. And so the media is doing everything desperate to maintain control and to maintain order. And in their desperation, they are growing increasingly more violent, increasingly more sinister, increasingly more psychopathic. You guys, you need to wake up. You want people to turn away from me. Don't listen to Candace Owens. She's a conspiracy theorist. She's dumb. She believes in flat earth. They're calling me stupid all the time. She's a Holocaust denier. What is it that I'm actually doing? I'm reporting on real history outside of the textbook. You're looking around and realizing that actual people who worshipped Satan, they believed that they were the beasts in Revelation, in the Bible, the whore of Babylon. They sought to establish that, to establish America as the whore of Babylon. What did they establish? They said NASA, the Apollo program. We couldn't believe it. I mean, we sat here in this control. We were going, this can't be real. What do you mean this is the origins of NASA? These people worship Satan. So if you don't believe in God, let me tell you guys something. The people you're fighting sure do. They sure do. And they pick their side. They are fully committed Satanists that we are fighting. This is not hyperbole. You just have to have the courage to look into real history. They began investing in understanding that they could create mass psychoses. They could quite literally lead people not to believe their own eyes. Wake up. If you are still asleep at the wheel, wake up. It is hard. I get it. I had to go through it. I get it. When you realize that everything you were told was a lie, when you realize that you were just a severely propagandized individual from the moment that you stepped into the public school system, it is a hard reckoning to go through. You suffer through periods of cognitive dissonance. You're not crazy. This is the reality. We are fighting real evil. Do you guys understand what's going on right now? Do you understand what is happening in this country? Spiritual forces, as in when you are listening to music, they understand it is impacting your soul. So if you don't believe you have a soul, it's problematic. Your eyes and your ears are the windows to your soul. They understand that. They don't want you going to church because they have you attending their church every day in the form of public education. Following the assassination of JFK, the CIA said, okay, we need to start paying journalists to repeat our talking points. Now, why would they do that if they didn't kill JFK? Why would they be employing journalists? Why would our deep state begin employing journalists to repeat talking points? Why would they suddenly enter the term conspiracy theory into the lexicon? It never existed prior. Never called people conspiracy theorists before the 60s. Suddenly the media was saying it every single day. If you don't believe what we're selling you, you're a conspiracy theorist. They also understand that if you keep repeating something, it eventually becomes true to people. They understand that that works, that people can be psychologically conditioned to believe anything if you just say it enough times. They don't believe their own eyes and their own experiences. That is the power of psychology. I don't care if I'm called the conspiracy theorist. I literally wear that as a badge of honor because we keep being proven right. It is a battle for your soul.
Not everybody can be a robot polisher.
I have now untethered myself from fear because I don't believe in man. I see this journey, this humanistic exploits. They want you to believe in man as the ultimate creators. As I said, when they make fun of me, science has become a religion. People will roll up their sleeves and inject things in their arm. If they're God, the experts tell them to. They don't even, when their gut is screaming at them, no. That's the Holy Spirit screaming at you, don't do this, something does not add up. They will ignore it and set it aside because, God forbid, they're called a conspiracy theorist.
It's possible that everything in the media.
Yeah, so I don't care if I'm called a conspiracy theorist. I don't know about you. Anyway, I hope all of that worked out. And there's so many times that I wanted to pause the video there for a second, but I'm not 100% sure that if I pause, it will play properly and come back. So, but anyway, our CIA did not invent the word conspiracy theory or phrase, but they did popularize it. And that was primarily in response to is just basically their way of covering for the last few decades the fact that they offed a president because he wouldn't cooperate. You know, the thing is I'm so cynical with the government at this point that it wouldn't surprise me to find that even all of that was staged somehow, and he never really was, and it was all done on purpose. You know, I have no idea, but you know, that's how little I trust government. I would rather depend on myself and what I can do, you know, than have to depend on anything in government. I really just want them to leave us alone and quit taxing us to death. And I know not just taxes, but taxes, fees, licensing. I mean, we have to get license to do things that we already have the freedom to do. It's like having to purchase permission again. I don't know. I know they say there's reasons for it. Like, well, if we don't do this, we won't have proper streets. Well, have we all looked around our communities? Does it look like they're using the money to fix our streets? Because it sure doesn't around here. So it just makes you wonder if they don't just take that money and then find ways to launder it through different organizations like 501c or different for nonprofit things, and then just find a way to get the money back to themselves somehow, or give it to, you know. Sometimes I wonder if some of these shows on TV aren't propped up by this money, you know, taxpayers' money. You know, send it to Ukraine, you know, launder it through digital currency and send it back somehow, you know, so you can prop up these shows that should be just feeding a tree by now, right? Because nobody's watching them hardly. How did they even stay afloat, right? Because it seems like so many people despise it. And yet there they are day after day regurgitating their vomit that, you know, a very small percentage of the population watches and enjoys. And yet you would think they had bottomless resources to be able to keep spewing this out, you know. But anyway, that is the show for Wednesday. And I will let our Wednesday night rock and roll folks play it out for you. See ya.
It's time for listener emails, comments, and stuff they send in. So kick back and listen, it'll make you grin. Every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, yeah. Central Standard Time, yeah. Central Standard Time, yeah. It's time for listener emails, comments, and stuff they send in.